I want to welcome you all to part 2 of the Feminine Communication Intensive Training. So last week we talked about tone. Week 2 is all about controlling your emotions. So this is a crucial skill to master when you are really wanting to effectively communicate with men or anybody in general. The things that I'm going to be teaching on this evening will help you when it comes to your relationships and personal relationships with your friends, families, coworkers, things of that nature. Because like I said last week, it is great practice to start practicing controlling your emotions and practicing controlling your tone so that when you are in a relationship and you do get married, you have these healthy tools that you can use on your journey. And so in order to have a healthy, thriving relationship, you have to master controlling your emotions. And that's what we're going to be talking about this week. Now, before we jump into controlling your emotions, comment in the chat box how well you did this week on controlling your tone. So this past week, I had you really just be mindful of your tone when speaking to people around you, your peers, your boyfriend, your coworkers, your friends, your family. How has your tone been this week? Let me know in the comment box how you did. Now, if you were to grade yourself between an A being excellent, F being you need serious work, comment what grade you would give yourself this past week when it comes to your tone. I would say for me personally that I was a C. I definitely had some room for improvement this past week because at times my tone did not reflect what I wanted to get across. But the thing is, because I taught on this past week, I quickly was able to pivot. I was quickly able to pivot in my tone because I'm like, wait a minute, I just did a training on this. I'm human just like anybody else is human. So when you notice that your tone is elevated and that your tone is not in a way that is you're not communicating in an effective way, that's your opportunity to change it. So if I'm going to be real, this past week, I would rate myself a C. So I'm interested in seeing what you would rate yourself. So go ahead and leave a comment and let me know how you did. How was your tone this week? How did you do? Let me know in the comment box. Okay, so I see a couple C's. Okay, work in progress. Yes. So it's good that you all see that you had moments where you did have room for improvement. And it's all about being self-reflective and saying, you know what, I spoke to someone this way, I could have done it better. But there are also times that I see reading somebody, like Dewana said, she rated herself a B, so that she was able to control her tone, and reflecting back over the week, she rated it a B. So I think that's great. So moving on, tonight, again, we were talking about controlling your emotions, because when you are able to master your emotions, it will make it easier for you to control your tone. A lot of time people have issues controlling their tone because they haven't mastered controlling their emotions. And that is very, very important when it comes to feminine communication. And the demise of many relationships is due to women not knowing how to control their tone. And so one of my favorite scriptures is Proverbs 15:1, and it says, "A gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare." So a gentle answer deflects anger, but harsh words make tempers flare. Have you ever been provoked due to someone's reaction or response? I know I have. And I remember at one point I was working with an event planner for an event, and the guy that I was working with got hostile, and the Ashley in me, the deep down Ashley before Christ Ashley, wanted to say something in response to his reaction. But I'm telling you guys, immediately when I wanted to respond in a negative way, I had Proverbs 15:1 drop in my spirit, that a gentle answer deflects anger. I know that in that moment of having that discussion with the event planner, if I would have responded in a harsh way, in a combative way, it would have only fueled the fire. But because I gave a gentle and soft response, it shut down. It literally, the fire completely went out. So it's so important that you recognize not everything is a battle. People say all the time, pick and choose your battles. You don't have to react to every single thing that irks your nerve. You don't have to react to every single thing that annoys you. Sometimes it's good just to master controlling your emotions by not saying anything at all, by understanding that not every battle is yours to fight. And when you respond in love, and when you respond with a gentle, soft answer, it will put out fires. It will put out fires. So when you are able to control your emotions and take a step back and look at a situation and respond in a polite way, it will help you avoid wrath. And that is very crucial when it comes to dating. Learning how to take a soft approach rather calm a situation rather than stirring up wrath with your words is very important. And I'm sure many of you can look back on your past relationships where you said something that you may have regretted. You said something in the heat of the moment that stirred up anger, that made tempers flare. And so what I'm teaching you, that as communicating in an effective way, in a feminine way, you have to discern when to give a soft answer. It's very, very important. And it's also important that you know that you can 100% control your emotions. You can control your emotions. Many people will tell you otherwise, and the problem with most people is that they don't even try. Most people take their first reaction and they go with whatever that is. But the key is to realize that you can 100% control your emotions. And when you have that awareness, it will set you up to be in the healthiest relationship. When you are in a relationship and you let a man get the best of your emotions, it will set you up for failure. If everything you say, if everything he says, you're trying to defend against it. You have something harsh to say. You don't know how to respond you don't know how to respond versus react. That is an issue. So if you want to have a lasting relationship, what we are discussing tonight will help you communicate with men so you maintain a sense of peace and calm in a relationship in a way that still allows you to express yourself and adds value to your relationship. So now it's very important that you learn how to control your emotions, because people will say, God made me this way, or God is still working on me. And I agree that everybody is a work in process, but when you say that, that puts your power in the hands of someone else. But if you say, you know what, I know that I have control over my emotions. Not everything needs to have a negative reaction, but I am going to learn how to respond in love to set me up for the healthiest relationship. And so it's really important that, one, you know that you can control your emotions. Two, you know that there's power in responding versus reacting. And three, when it comes to controlling your emotions, especially in the dating field, it's very important that you not only control your emotions when it comes to your temperament, but when it comes to your level of excitement about the relationship as well. So I teach on controlling your emotions when it comes to your level of excitement is because if you don't, it can make you obsessive about where a relationship is going. If you're always on 10, like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited about this guy. This is the best guy I've ever met in my life. This guy, this, like, putting him on such a high pedestal, it is not a good thing. So you want to learn how to control your emotions when it comes to your level of excitement about a relationship as well. And it will also help you to guard your heart in a relationship. When I was single, there were so many times where I would be so excited about a guy and I would get my hopes up so incredibly high, and it didn't work out. And so what I'm going to be teaching on tonight, and I'm going to give you 3 practical tips on how to control your emotions to help you guard your heart and to help you communicate in a feminine way. So the first thing that I want to share, a practical tip, is to identify your feelings and why you are feeling it. So when I share this tip, this is a tip that is more focused on your temperament in a relationship. And so when you're able to identify your feelings and why you are feeling a certain way, this allows you to determine what actually makes you tick. And it helps you identify what triggers you in relationships. And so what I'm teaching you is to identify what's triggering you so you don't take it out, so you don't take negative emotions out on your future fiance or your boyfriend or those around you. And you allow yourself, you allow yourself to say, okay, these certain things triggered me. Let me identify these certain things that make me feel a certain type of way so I can deal with them, so I don't carry these negative emotions throughout my day. And I truly believe that when you remove yourself from a scenario and observe what made you feel a certain way, it gives you the power to grow in controlling your emotions. And when you do this, it empowers you to respond in an effective way. So let me give you an example. So let's say that you are dating someone, you've been dating for a few months, you're getting to know one another well, you really like each other, and now you're boyfriend and girlfriend. So 3-4 months in, you guys are boyfriend and girlfriend, and you're out to dinner one night, and he mentions something that reminded him of his ex-girlfriend. So you're sitting across the table and you're listening, and immediately you start feeling feelings of insecurity because he mentioned something that reminded him of a past relationship. You feel something triggered insecurity. And so you go throughout the rest of your evening feeling heavy, feeling like you're just not in the present moment anymore because of his comment. What I'm teaching you this evening is that once you identify that feeling, once you connect with that feeling, you have to identify it and discuss it. So it's so important that you process situations and you remove yourself from the situation and you take yourself out and act as if, okay, maybe you need a moment to think of, if your friend was in this same situation, what advice would I give her? Because when you remove yourself from the situation, it gives you the power to control your emotions and choose your response. Now, if you were in that scenario, out to dinner, you have a sense of heaviness, the type of person that I am, I don't like to have that heavy feeling for long, because if I keep a heavy feeling, something on my heart and my spirit too long, how should I say this? If I keep that feeling too long, I will take it out on other people. So my personality, I don't like to let things linger. I like to address them. And if at any time you have a spark of insecurity in a dating relationship, you want to address that sooner than later, because you don't want to carry yourself as insecure moving forward in the relationship. So if it's not a big deal, you don't have to address everything. But if you're in a situation that literally changes your entire countenance, that changes the energy and the vibe of what you are experiencing, it's important that you address it. And I think it's very important when a guy says something that rubs you the wrong way, you address it so you don't allow things to build up, that you're able to proceed peacefully. Because if you don't, you can easily start to create negative stories in your mind. And when you create negative stories in your mind, it will change the way you navigate the relationship. And so sometimes negative things do come up in a relationship, and sometimes people will say things that will hurt you, and that's normal. But what I'm telling you is to define what you are feeling and ask yourself why you are feeling that before you have those conversations, because it will help you navigate through a conversation, and it will help you move through those uncomfortable emotions. If you want to learn how to communicate in a feminine way, this is so incredibly important. When you identify, this is how I'm feeling, this is why, now you have the information you need to have a conversation. But if you just use your feelings and try to have a conversation and not knowing what triggered you and why, it can easily turn into an argument and something bigger than it needed to be. So number one is to identify your feeling and ask yourself why you are feeling it. The second practical tip I have is to breathe. Breathing is a powerful tool of communication. Breathing is used in many different forms of communication. Even when it comes to negotiation, breathing is a very powerful tactic. Now, specifically, when it comes to controlling your emotions, you have to breathe. You have to give yourself a moment to breathe. And you have to learn how to breathe through things. Because a lot of times anger or discomfort, it shows in our physical nature. And our emotions are simply how we respond physically and what we are thinking. So when you master the art of breathing, when something triggers you emotionally, it helps you to avoid the combative responses, and it also helps you to respond in a positive way physically. Because sometimes when you're unable to control your emotions, and when you're triggered by something and it sparks anger, if you don't breathe through certain things, you can start to feel it in your body. If you're at work and your boss asks you to do something that you know is not your responsibility, it's not on your job task, and it upsets you, and you can easily just stuff down those feelings and start to feel those physical emotions in your body. So it's really important that you know the power of breathing through things, giving yourself a moment. And when you are breathing, it allows you to have power over what you are experiencing. Now, what I always recommend people to do is to take 5 deep breaths. That allows you to center yourself, to control your emotional state, and get back to a place of calm. Like I said, being emotionally triggered, getting angry, all of that is normal. But what I'm teaching you is how to get yourself back to a state that is at a place of calm and peace where you're able to communicate effectively. If you communicate with your first emotion, that is not beneficial to you or to whoever you're in a relationship with. So you can counter negative emotions by breathing. Now, you want to be able to process your emotions in a way that you're not wearing every single thought, feeling, and emotion on your sleeve. So a lot of times, I know me specifically, I will be very turned off by someone who is really combative, who pops off. It makes me uncomfortable. Yes, I salute people who are able to speak up for themselves in a respectful way. But recently, my husband and I just thought of an example. There's a show on, I think it's OWN, called Ready to Love. And they have it's like a show where people are trying to find love in Atlanta. And the last episode that I saw, there was a mixer between the men and the women just to see who was vibing with one another. And at the mixer, one of the guys got into a disagreement with, it was like a group of women, probably 3 or 4 women, and he went off. And not only were the women uncomfortable, but they voted him off the show because he was unable to control his emotions. So when you're not able to control your emotions, it's unattractive. Being able to communicate in an effective way gives you points in a relationship. It gives you major cool points when you know how to control yourself, when you know how to bring an issue to the table without being incredibly combative. So a physical rule of thumb when it comes to being triggered and when it comes to receiving some news that upsets you or puts you in a different emotional state is to keep your chin up and keep your jaw relaxed. We're going to touch on the physical effects of communication in the next couple sessions, but that is something that I want you to remember. If you keep your jaw relaxed and your chin up, this helps you to keep your composure. Recognizing what your face is doing will help you to keep your composure. Relaxing your face, relaxing your jaw will practically help you when it comes to controlling your emotions, because emotions are shown through your body language. If you're happy, we smile. If you're confused, sometimes you can give a side eye. If you're angry, your wrinkled forehead. You know, you have the different face that you can make if you're like, hold up, wait a minute. If somebody says something that is disrespectful. Our emotions tend to be shown in our physical body language. If you're angry, you can get sweaty. Your temperature can get increased. You can get a dry mouth. There's different physical reactions to the emotions that we face. So you want to show in your body language that you know how to control your emotions, because it's attractive, and it will also change the way people communicate with you. So if you are in a relationship with someone and you're keeping your composure, you're speaking eloquently, you're able to express how you feel or address certain things, they're not going to just speak to you any kind of way because of the composure that you're bringing to the situation. So when you aren't able to control your emotions, you can easily do different things, make rash decisions, respond immaturely, and it could also create false interpretations. Like I said, you know, the example that I gave a moment ago, if you're on a date and someone mentioned something that reminded him of their ex, you can start making a false interpretation like, well, do you guys still talk? Or clearly you still love her. You can start creating these false interpretations and jumping to false conclusions if you're not able to control your emotions. It can also increase insecurity. You want to make sure that you're addressing the things that trigger you, asking yourself why, and with a spirit of composure, addressing those things as they come. So this affects women, especially in dating, because a lot of times women tend to be the ones that are overly emotional and overly analytical. So they can take something that one guy says and it will completely create a completely false scenario. So you don't want to ruin the good thing that you've got going because your lack of control over your emotions. So when you can control your emotions, you're able to ask necessary questions to get understanding. And women, honestly, who are overly emotional, who do fly by the seat of their pants, who aren't self-reflective, they're not ready to be in a serious committed relationship, because I guarantee they will ruin a good thing that they've got going on if they don't know how to control their mouth, if they don't know how to control their emotions, if they don't know how to identify something that made them feel uncomfortable and address it with poise and femininity. So I think that it's really important that when you have the wrong perception about something, that you don't just trust everything that you're feeling. You want to identify when something is making you feel uncomfortable, and in a mature way, having those necessary conversations. I remember 6-7 years ago when my husband and I were boyfriend and girlfriend. I was single, and I remember one evening we were talking on the phone. I was in my room, and I don't even remember specifically what our conversation was about, but at the end of the night, I remember feeling uncomfortable. Like, I don't even know if this is like, if this is going to go anywhere. Like, I literally remember feeling like that. Like, I don't know if this is going to go anywhere because of something he mentioned or didn't mention on the phone call. And I hung up the phone that evening thinking like, maybe I'll talk to him another time. Like, I wasn't going to intentionally keep building our friendship at that time. So I laid in my bed and I was like, do I have a false perception about whatever we talked about? And instead of going to sleep with that uncomfortable feeling, I decided to call him right back. And I said, hey, you said this or that, and it made me feel some type of way. And I just wanted to make sure that I understood what you were trying to say. And come to find out, I had the complete wrong interpretation of what he said. And after he was like, oh no, like that's not what I meant by that at all, it completely dissolved the negative emotions I was feeling. But mind you, like I said, prior to me calling him back, I was even doubting if I was ever even going to talk to him again. But getting that clarity allowed us to move forward peacefully in our relationship. So it's really important that you recognize what triggers you, what rubs you the wrong way, and that you address those things with poise and confidence. Because at the end of the day, it's about relaxing and understanding that things are not that deep. Men are not that complicated. We as women tend to be over analytical, and sometimes we just need to get in a place where we are in control of our emotions to address something that's made us feel some type of way. And it's so important that we're not creating mountains out of molehills. So number three is to know your worth. When you know your worth, you are able to control your emotions because you know who you are. And what I mean by that is when you're in a relationship, it doesn't matter how kind a man is, how much attention he is giving you, how excellent he is treating you while he's courting you, or how angry he makes you. Giving someone that much power over your emotions is unhealthy. So you have to be a woman who is stable within her emotions. Yes, you can be excited and giddy about your relationship and the future of your relationship, but that feeling should not control your life and your emotional state. So if you don't talk to someone for a day, or he's not texting you as often as he used to, and as a result, now your day is bad. Now you're constantly obsessing what happened or why he hasn't called you, why he hasn't texted you. That level of control over your emotional state is unhealthy. So you have to have an abundance mindset and know that there are plenty of people in this world that will bring you joy, and it doesn't come solely from one person. So don't ever let anyone have that much control over your emotions to the point where if they don't call or text you or invite you out or ask you out, that you can no longer function and that it ruins your day. You don't ever want to have that level of control. You don't ever want to give someone that level of control. So always know your value and what you are bringing to the relationship, regardless of what a man does or doesn't do. If you know your worth and you're able to control your emotions, you will still have that peace and joy, regardless of the actions of another individual. So it's important that you're not getting your hopes up so high that if something happens, you're distraught. Today, we answered a question on 802 Game Time that I believe will come out either sometime this week about a woman who had been in a relationship for 5 months. And at the 5-month mark, she learned that this probably isn't the relationship for her. But she has allowed over this past 5 months, this guy to get her hopes up so high that now she's writing us distraught about it. And it's healthy to be excited. It's healthy to feel good about a relationship, but you want to be able to control your emotions, that you are able to stay neutral and not so obsessed about the potential outcome of a relationship or the other person's actions dictating how much joy you have because of things that they're doing or not doing. So in relationships, I always teach on this because it's so unhealthy to allow another individual to be the determining factor of whether or not you're having a good day. And I see that so much in relationships where people are like, okay, he called me, or we talked today, or he texted me this morning. It's a good day. But then at 5 o'clock, if you haven't heard from the guy that you're dating all day, now your day, you feel heavy, you're not feeling good because you haven't heard from him all day. You do not want to give someone that level of control over your emotions. Now, controlling your emotions, that doesn't mean that you're turning off your feelings, or you're not having important conversations, or you're not being authentic with how you feel about a relationship. It just simply means that you're analyzing how you're feeling and you're responding in an effective way. So relationships, they're not always rainbows and gummy bears. You will go through different emotions when you're in a relationship as a woman. And a healthy person experiences all facets of emotions, from joy, pain, sadness, excitement. That's normal. That's normal to experience an array of emotions. And it's important that you know how to move through these emotions. Because sometimes people say, oh, I'm so ready to be in a relationship because I'm lonely. I want that companionship. But when you're in a relationship with someone, you can be lonely too. So you want to know how to navigate through these emotions, recognizing that different emotional states are normal and they're temporary. I always say this too shall pass. Learning how to control your emotions helps you to respond to things in a healthy way and create a healthy foundation of communication for your relationship. So you want to breathe and allow yourself to experience all facets of emotions. And as women, we can be very emotional, especially when it comes to around our time of the month. And a bonus video, I talk about PMS, and I talk about PMS and how to really control that if you're easily triggered around those times of the month. So be looking out for that. But again, when you are self-aware and you know the things that trigger you, it allows you to give yourself a little extra self-care and really monitor the people that come around you, or what areas or circumstances or environments you need to avoid so you are not easily triggered. Now, again, you want to address and not dismiss your emotions. Communicating in a feminine and effective way doesn't mean that you're perfect Patty and everything is all right all the time and you let things slide all the time. No, you still want to address your emotions, because sometimes people tend to sweep things under the rug until they get to their breaking point. And what I'm saying is, learn how to control your emotions, address things as they come, so you are not waiting until you're just bogged down with negative feelings that it's like you're at your breaking point. Now you're ready to address some things. No, control your emotions and address things as they come. And a rule of thumb is to do mental check-ins. If you woke up feeling great, but by noon you feel thrown off, you want to do mental check-ins and observe, okay, what got me to this point? Was it the fact that I scrolled on my lunch break on social media for 20 minutes and I saw nothing but engagements and bridal showers and newborn babies and couples on #vacation, and now I feel some type of way? And now I'm taking it out on my boyfriend because he still hasn't made it clear when he's going to propose? You want to do mental check-ins when your day gets thrown off, and ask yourself, what caused this? Because you want to make sure that you're guarding your heart and your mental space. So some possible emotional triggers to look for are: 1, social media. Social media is a big one. I've done research how people have studied when someone is on social media scrolling for at least 30 minutes that they feel more so the control group that got tested scrolling on social media for 30 minutes, the majority of the individuals in the control group got off of Facebook feeling depressed rather than uplifted. So social media can be a negative emotional trigger, and it can also be a positive one. Other things that can be emotional triggers are eating bad food. Eating the wrong foods can 100% have a negative effect on how you feel emotionally. Research the sugar blues. If you eat a lot of sugar, a lot of processed foods, it is known to cause depression, to cause anxiety, and trigger negative emotions within you. So you want to watch what you're eating. You also can be triggered by what you watch, by emotional movies or lingering offenses. If someone offends you at work, you can then carry that same negative, offensive energy throughout your day. So you really want to do mental check-ins and see, okay, what is causing me to feel down? What changed? I woke up feeling perfectly fine, but what changed? You want to ask yourself that, because controlling your emotions starts with having the awareness of your mental state on a consistent basis. So a few things that can help you is, one, like I said, address it. Ask yourself what altered your mood. Also taking time to reflect. Asking yourself, is there a perception shift that I need to get my emotions back on track? Am I perceiving something wrong? Did I take something the wrong way? So that's the type of reflective questions you want to ask yourself. Also, if you're emotionally triggered, some things that help are praying and speaking life. Saying a quick prayer of forgiveness to move on from an offense that doesn't necessarily need to be addressed. And then speaking life and expressing gratitude. Like I said, you're going to choose your battles. Not every single thing needs to be addressed. And if you know someone said something to offend you, but you know they didn't really mean it like that, say a little breath prayer is what I like to say. A breath prayer of forgiveness so you can move on, not holding that record of a wrong. So you can move on in peace. And so this week, I know that you will most likely have opportunities to experiment with this. To say, okay, somebody offended me in my workplace, or somebody offended me when I was at the grocery store. Let me say a quick prayer under my breath to forgive them so I don't carry that negative emotional energy throughout my day. Now, the last thing here is physical activity. It is a known fact that physical activity shifts your emotional energy. It helps you release positive endorphins, and it helps you get to a amazing physical state when you get out and you're active, especially if you can get out and do something physically active in nature. When I was in corporate America and I would get emotionally triggered or just kind of over the day, if you've had a long week or a long day and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so over this, I'm ready to go home for the day. What I would do is I would take a 15-minute break and I would go on a walk. So I would utilize, like in corporate America, I had like an hour lunch break and 2 15-minute breaks. So I would go on walks during my breaks, and for my lunch, I would literally go to the gym. It was a benefit that we had a membership to a gym that was less than a mile away. So I would get a 30-minute class in, shower, head back to work on my lunch break because it uplifted my energy. When I was ready to go home for the day, I would simply go get a quick workout in and I would feel better because I was active. It helped increase my security and my confidence within myself and just made me feel good for being productive with my time. So physical activity helps as well. And so I recommend doing these things rather than going to happy hour to control your emotions, rather than going to sweets, ice cream, or grabbing you a salty snack. Go ahead and address your emotions and do something positive if you feel a certain type of way. And so what I'm teaching you is to address your emotions and do these things in practice for your future marriage. And I say this as a person who for years has been building the muscle of controlling emotions, because I can tell you to this day, I've been married almost 6 years. My husband and I do not argue. We do not argue because we are two people who have mastered this area. We get in disagreements. We get on each other's nerves, but there's no cursing, disrespecting, yelling, going off on one another, because we've learned how to control this area. And our house is filled with peace and love because we observe how we feel and respond in an effective way. So the last thing that I want to mention is when you're getting too emotionally attached too soon, it's unhealthy and it can be critical for your heart. And so when you meet a guy and he's calling you every day and it slows down or it stops, address that emotion that you're feeling. You can ask what went wrong within yourself, but you don't have to let it get the best of you. And I wanted to share, as we wrap up, a few quick tips to not let your emotions get the best of you when it comes to getting too emotionally attached too soon. And I will say that in our bonus, one of the bonuses for this program is a video that I did called the Relationship A to Z, that really helps you not run ahead of relationships. It's one of the most powerful sessions that I've taught, and that's a must watch. Especially if you find yourself running ahead of your emotions, getting too attached too soon, thinking that the relationship is going to lead to marriage when you've only known someone a couple months. You want to make sure that you tune into that bonus session. But a few tips that I'll leave you with this evening is, one, to have an abundance mindset. So when you have an abundance mindset, and it allows you to renew your mind and know that there is a large pool of guys to date. And you have to have the mindset that there are a lot of great guys out there and that they are interested in you. That's the mindset that I want you to have. When you lack that mindset, it causes you to get stuck on one person when there's truly many different options. But the issue is that many people don't believe it. They don't believe that there are good options for them. And I'm telling you right now, it's not healthy emotionally to be stuck on one guy and get attached too soon. It is just not healthy. So you want to change your mindset right now and tell yourself, I want you to tell yourself right now, there are many amazing options and they're interested in me. Say that out loud. There are so many amazing options and they're interested in me. When you say it, you'll start to believe it. And so women who lack this mindset, they attract guys that are jerks that think that they are the end all and be all for that woman. But when you know your worth, when you know what you bring to your what you bring to the table, guys are gonna know they're not the best thing since sliced bread that's happened to you. So you want to make sure you're not coming off as a woman who thinks that this guy that she's talking to is the best thing since sliced bread. No, have an abundant mindset. And when a man asks you how you feel about the relationship or how you feel about him, a woman who is getting too emotionally attached, a woman who is not getting too emotionally attached, let me give you a response. So if a guy asks you how you feel about a relationship, this is a response that I want you to use. I'm just enjoying the moment. This is the power response. And when you say this one lets a guy know that he's not the best thing that's ever happened to you. And it helps him to stay on his P's and Q's. And when you tell a guy, I'm just enjoying the moment, he's going to be like, what? All the dates that I took you on, all the effort that I put in, and she's just enjoying the moment. This reaction is going to want him to work harder. It's going to want him to put in more effort if you're just enjoying the moment. Most women will react to that question and they'll say, oh, well, I'm really into this. What's our official title? How long are you thinking before getting married? And that's being way too emotionally involved. You simply want to enjoy the moment. The I'm just enjoying the moment response will give you a different playing ground. I'm telling you, write that down in your notes. I'm just enjoying the moment. So the last thing is to have boundaries. When it comes to controlling your emotions, you want to make sure that you have physical boundaries set when it comes to physical intimacy. Women who are having sex with men who are not their husband will get too emotionally attached. When sex is involved, it makes you more susceptible to soul ties, to acting out of character, and to getting too emotionally involved. When you're having sex with someone, it releases a hormone called oxytocin, which literally is caused to emotionally bond two people together when they are mating. It is scientifically proven. And a way to protect your emotions in relationships is to not be physically involved with anyone that's not your husband. And in the event that a relationship doesn't work out, it is easier to move on when you weren't physically involved with the person. If you don't want to get too emotionally attached, you have to refrain from sexual intimacy until you get married. I know it's hard, but it's so important. And a woman who gives herself to a man who is not her husband no longer has control over her emotions. You may think you do, but as soon as that man starts talking to another woman, you're going to be an emotional hot mess. So I wanted to share those things with you because it's important that when you're controlling your emotions, that you simply just enjoy the moment, that you respond versus reacting, and that you make sure you're not getting too emotionally involved or even too emotionally excited about a relationship. You want to guard your heart, guard your emotions, and always remember to have an abundance mindset. So what I want to do is leave you with this. Over the next week, I want you to observe your emotions this week and identify when something triggers you and ask yourself why. That is your duty to observe this week.